there'll be some folks who want to hear
Right,
the
right.
report out.
We can send it out. Exactly. Wonderful. Okay, so Jay's gonna go ahead and record. I'll kick it over to Regis and Jason in just a few. So if I can welcome everybody. Um, Welcome everybody to our monthly elimination of all prejudice and racism dialogue. I'm Mike Karami here, which I believe all of us know each other, but whoever is going to watch this and who may join on. Live here in Dublin. Just want to thank everybody who's been supporting us through the last, few years now going, all of us here. When we were at the Dublin Civic Center in person, Chung knows about it. Amelia, you joined on now through our Zoom meetings. So we've just transferred, right? It still takes place. There's activities taking place outside of this. And this takes place once a month, right? So that's what we say. So we get together for the Elimination of All Prejudice and Racism dialogue. And this is one day of the month that we're doing this. And outside of this, tomorrow, there's a lot of things going on, right? So the first step is we've become aware, we've become conscious, we're intrigued, we're interested to get together and talk about these issues and subjects of how to bring resolve to any of the injustices that are taking place, any of the inequality that's taking place. And what are the means, what are the tools that we're going to do this? We've seen some horrific things, as I mentioned, take place throughout history in our country. Some positive things too, great relationships, race amity taking place. So the first step that we do, the principle we're using every time we would come into the dialogue in person and in here, is independent investigation of truth. Independent investigation of truth. So we come into the dialogue and in all our deliberations and conversations and consultations, and we are learning about this. It's foreign to some. It's new language in this day and age that we're using, a lot of new terms, a lot of new phrases, a lot of new concepts. So part of it is that we are going to leave out any of the dogmas of our past, any of the superstitions, any of the prejudgments of our past up to our present. That's part of it. So we'll use reason, we'll be reasonable in our conversations, we'll be reasonable in our judgments. We learn from each other, we listen, we hear, right? So we see with our own eyes, we hear with our own ears. And we have a what we call a consultative process go through, and we learn from each other. And the individuals in this dialogue, in this dialogue taking place tonight, that are going to be listening, you have educators, you have administrators, you have healthcare takers that are taking care of people. These workers in the healthcare facilities are administrators in the schools, local policymakers, administrators, politicians. So once we're going through this process, I share with people, these are new tools we gain to go beyond, to add in addition to whatever we've been doing for years. We've been using methods and ways. So to go beyond and take that learning as individuals from all races, all skin tones are coming in and welcome, all necessary, all sides of the political realm coming together, all necessary and vital, whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, what have you, whether you're a religionist, a traditionalist, spiritualist, you have scientific views, you believe in religion or not, all vital and necessary, all have something to contribute. As we say, we are a wide-ranging group of individuals, each unique and worthy of appreciation, each unique and worthy of acceptance. So with those learnings, now the ones that are developers, whether in an online platform, you have an online platform like this, you have other online platforms, they're developing. Who are they developing for? You have communities being developed, who's included. So with this concept, this phrase that we have, so you have belonging, you have equity coming out of it, because the individuals going into these healthcare facilities and these educational systems and these political systems, what is learned and gained goes into those our work environment tomorrow, into the discussion, the consultative process in those realms to make policy, to progress our healthcare system. Who needs to be healed? Who's not being healed? And the individuals that are going through this process, they take these learnings, they go through, and now they progress. And now those individuals are bringing about equity in all those areas that we have challenges in: housing, development, online platform development. So unique to this day and age, we have ourselves and we have technology to now really take us to this next stage for, as we talk about justice, we talk equality, and we want equity. From these learnings that we have in our venues, in this dialoguing, consultations, and get-togethers, these individuals are now going to go back into, as we call it, the real world. And now that is going to be this new world that we talk about, this new reality with the new language, this new phrases, these new terms, the oneness of humanity. This concept is now exiting from these conversations with the learnings that are a new idea, a new theme. We've tried other ways with respect. We're not going to leave it behind.
So Mike, yeah. What are we trying here? Because I'm hearing you talking for about 5 minutes nonstop now, and I'm not understanding what is it that we're trying to do. What is what is concrete things that we're going to do?
So Jason's going to go ahead and share some of the goals and the practices that we're going to go ahead and implement. And it's a wonderful segment that we're going to lead into.
Okay.
And then Amelia's, she's been so kind to join us this evening. And we can go ahead and take these learnings. And again, as individuals, starts as an individual. What can I do as an individual? It starts with me. So if I don't like what's happening in society, if I don't like what's taking place in society, what am I doing? It all comes back to me. My household, my community, my workplace starts with me. That's why we're here tonight. And tomorrow we go out into the world and we can see what we can offer. Now we offer these ways that we think we can come together as people from all different walks of life, come together and go through this consultative process and see what can come about, from youth to children or what have you, and see what we can do together as individuals and as groups, and take our learnings, because it's organic, it's going to change. So again, Regis and Jason is kind enough to take us through that, and we're definitely going to get a lot of learning from that tonight and continue. This will be a segment that is coming up in just a few minutes here. So we will definitely learn what is taking place and what we hope to implement individually and with everybody's cooperation. So again, thank you, and I appreciate everybody. So Regis, I'll hand it off over to you, and then Jason, if you can go ahead and share with us.
I just want to say welcome everyone to the Alliance. Appreciate you coming out. Just really short. Just want to say thank you for coming out and participating, especially with the election results going on and everything, even with Thursday night football. So I'm just going to pass it on. Jason Grammer is going to go ahead and he's going to be leading us through tonight. So I'm just going to pass the buck on to him.
Thank you, Regis. So can you set context for those who weren't here last time, what we had during the September dialogue around oneness, when the candidates came? Can you kind of give a summary, because it's a good context leading into this segment, this next segment?
Yeah, so to sum up, we came up with we know our primary goal is to eliminate all prejudice and racism. We know it's an ongoing process. But but as far as that, we also posted as far as our mission statement, what we're about, and then also our 3 major principles that we're trying to accomplish, or goals, and that is to educate, and that is not just to educate others, but to also educate ourselves. Accountability, and that is not just to hold someone else accountable, but to also to hold ourselves accountable. And then oneness, and that is, hey, for we are, every single person in here, as well in the United States, has something to bring to the table. Everyone does. And so of us coming together as oneness, instead of being like different tribes or groups, like one tribe over here, another tribe over there, that we all come together as one group of humans. And so that's the stride that we're going through, to find that commonality. And that is, for example, a common goal. We all want to have a comfortable life. We all want the best for our children, and those of us who have children. We all want to strive to be successful, whatever our own individual definition of success is. And so to come together as a unit, as one group of people, hey, let's strive for these common goals. And it's okay, like I said, to look at differences and people, to look at it as an opportunity and not an obstacle. And so when I'm going ahead and pass it on with Jason, is going to lay out a platform of going more in depth and have our strategic action plan. Okay.
Thank you, Regis. So I'll sort of introduce this. I have a deck that I'm going to walk through that sort of sums up our mission. And basically last session, just to continue the thought of what we had some residents of Dublin come and present. A lot of them were running for office in Dublin. They came and presented on the topic around oneness and oneness of the community, oneness of oneness of mankind. And some of the notes I took will kind of give context to this. It was a very rich discussion, and a lot of the folks we built personal relationships with, and a lot of the folks continue the story. So Dublin, in terms of the mission, so this is the mission statement that we came up with. We launched this 2 months ago. Some folks are asking what our mission statement was, and so we presented it 2 months ago to the Alliance, and it was ratified, adopted, and a lot of people have thoughts and ideas about this. And so the city of the vision is really to create this connected, learning and loving environment into one unified community. I think the dialogue has evolved to that, and people are very much in Dublin because of the things happening inside of Dublin, things happening outside of Dublin, very much in that conversation. The next one is to develop the practices, because we talk about oneness, but how do we actually practice and integrate oneness activities into fostering the unity into the community and bring the diversity forth? And then create a safe and respectful space. The dialogue has been going on for 3 years, I believe, almost 3 years. And we have had immense innovative thoughts. A lot of, we don't necessarily agree all the time, but we do have dialogue and elevated dialogue, and friendships and building community is occurred. And so what folks have asked us since we reinitiated the mission statement was to take the mission statement and lay it out in terms of goals. So Regis covered the high level points that we came up with as a core group. And these are the goals we are executing and going to hold ourselves accountable to. And so the first one, learning and gaining experience and building community capacity. So this one is the actionable level of where we're going to focus tonight on this topic. So you're participating in the first bullet here about inviting dialogue and consultation, about expanding collective knowledge and appreciating our diversity and experiences. and then directing that toward discovery and how we can then collectively change our behavior and create a culture where healing racism and eliminating prejudice can occur. And there's been a lot of dialogue, and a lot of people want to participate and sort of shift in terms of taking action in that regard, right? And also engage with other area like-minded individuals. I saw a note Mike sent yesterday from a guy who was running San Ramon Diversity Alliance. There's a lot of like-minded groups inside of Dublin, and in the area of Dublin, in Pleasanton and San Ramon, that are focusing on similar initiatives, and we are engaging with some of that. And so some of this community capacity building will target those individuals and groups to collaborate with and do action plans, strategic action that Regis pointed out toward that. The second one is really a demonstrating that we are executing on our vision and holding ourselves accountable to what the Alliance, we practice what we preach, basically, is what that is. And the betterment of the community at large is something that the Alliance we're going to hold ourselves accountable to it as we execute the plan and sort of integrate the practices and start doing the activities in terms of action. There's been a lot of discussion about what is the action. The youth actually, the Diablo Inclusion Project, kind of called us on the carpet and said, what is your action plan to take action inside the city to demonstrate the betterment of the community and be measurable toward those impacts, and obviously celebrate success. So there's a lot of points of view that the dialogue has uncovered, and this is one of the key goals that we were able to synthesize and do and promote. The last one is the overarching community culture of oneness. So the first two will feed into this one, and we will celebrate the oneness of mankind in terms of all diverse members of the human race, the tapestry of what Dublin is. I think one person in the last dialogue made this comment: we're in individual tribes, but how do we operate together into one tribe? And that is the human tribe, right? That a lot of folks are trying to get there because of the election. We are once again faced with the fracturing of what our human tribe is, our perspective, but a lot of people don't want to operate there. They want to operate and celebrate the oneness and do very specific expressions of that in oneness, and inside of Dublin actually have events and produce community art projects. We have people engaged to actually help produce that. I don't know if they're on the call tonight, but this recording will be sent out to those individuals to come back with those ideas. And the cultural events that folks are focusing on is having oneness centric events instead of, or in addition to having, individual cultural events, but to initiate a oneness type of event or a series of events to celebrate the oneness of mankind. So that's the overall goal and mission. And this leads into a backdrop. So I decided to put this slide together so that folks who are new to the call can see we took pictures on some of the dialogue when we used to meet. And what this has created is this notion of a connected city through love. And I've been participating with this community for a while, and my office is across the highway in Pleasanton, and I used to, before COVID, obviously we used to meet, and now that COVID's here, we're meeting virtually. But you have these perspectives inside of a community, and a lot of folks have expressed their perspectives, and they're looking to this connected city to bring forth other ideas in terms of expressing those perspectives and weaving a connected city through love toward oneness. So this is actually what we've synthesized, and Mike and Regis and Phil and some other folks can chime in on some of these stories, but it's been a privilege, and it's been a very powerful story to tell around Dublin, and you know, the mayor and the city council that supported it, and it's weaved into the changing of the policy and actually the charter of the city. Actually, this impact first when we changed the mission statement of the city to be more inclusive and focusing on the oneness aspect of it. That was a very powerful occurrence that happened this year. And so now that we have this as a backdrop, what's next? What do we do with this connected city through love? What do we actually, what are we going to do to change? What's the strategy to change the culture and operate in this oneness aspect? So that's what I'm going to cover next. Before I go to that part, anyone have any questions? Or Mike, Regis, you want to add anything?
Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. So I'm introducing this. There's some people on the call who I've invited. So Mike and I and people on the call, some of them are members of the Baha'i faith, and the Baha'i community has been implementing globally. And what you're going to hear is a story of implementation and experience about the implementation of the oneness of mankind that the Baha'i community globally has been working on since the 90s. And it's at various phases globally. It really is, the purpose of it is really to focus on the oneness of mankind through using spiritual insights, using the human spirit and training the human spirit to generate insights and build skills to carry out work in the community. So it's more than just talking. It really is focused on building insights and gaining experience through action. And so as people participate in this, the main activity is to demonstrate deeds and service and social action to apply the learnings. And so when you say we believe in that, we want to focus on the oneness of mankind, well, how do you apply what you're learning in terms of doing that? In terms of what your neighbor is going through, or a lot of the skills that are needed to take community action is what we'll walk through and what we'll focus on. Now, this is what this global oneness of humanity focus via the Training Institute is a systematic endeavor. And when I say systematic, there's an initiation and sort of a maturity model that we'll walk through, and I'll show a slide on what that looks like. But this is really a systematic community endeavor where we're sort of moving together in unified action, lockstep, and we're starting to learn and really engage in the Institute and talk about what we're learning in these social spaces, neighborhoods, schools, etc. Because we have a lot of these constructs, and a lot of the people on the previous slide, you've got different neighborhoods going through things, different schools, you've got the youth in the schools, you've got initiatives coming from the city, you know, Black Lives Matter and some of the curriculum changing inside of the schools. And you have, you know, the workplaces. And I call out something significant that Regis brought up, and that is the Santa Rita jail, and Mike talking about the Santa Rita jail in terms of where it is in Dublin and what that means. So they're different, looking at the landscape of Dublin and surrounding communities, there's a different social landscape, and folks want to focus on different aspects of that. Some folks in the Alliance want to focus on homelessness. People want to focus on social and economic development. We want to support other initiatives. So this Training Institute helps people gain the skills to have those conversations and put more learning into a systematic way so that it sustains itself over time. right? So advancing the community in that, moving the needle toward oneness is really the application of these spiritual teachings that we learn in the Institute process. So it's the source of learning in terms of that is building that. I think folks have always wondered, well, what is, when you go into a learning endeavor, in an organized way, what does it really lead to? And learning builds over time, and it's through experience, and it's really through the human endeavor and tapping into the power of who we are individually and the diversity that we have is the focal point of what the nature of learning is in that way. Foundationally, I would say the connected community in Dublin and the relationships that I know that have been built and forged over these many years, foundationally, it's about love. And the operating principle about love and caring and empathy is in Dublin. I think it's understated to some extent, but teasing out that love and being actionable around the love will help bring more meaningful impact to the community in terms of what occurs as we execute. So the principles of the Institute, in terms of tools, the elements are the study circle. So the study circle is a gathering of people together and to focal on a topic. There's a tutor, someone who leads the discussion, and there's a set of materials. So there are three main things that are focused, and we use these elements grounded in the spiritual writings of God. That is something that is unique to this Institute process, is that we're trying to tap into the individual spirit. And so it's highly emphasis on the spiritual insights that we gain through experience. And, whether you believe in God or not, we recognize individuals that have human spirits. We're not just, we have a dual nature of spiritual and the animal side. So we're tapping on that in spiritual intelligence and that emotional intelligence to gain insights as we look into translating these teachings and concepts into reality, right? So the materials are available, and I've invited folks from the Institute, the California Institute, to actually process, to answer any questions as we go through this. But that's the first introduction of it. And real quickly, the study circle, for those aspects I talked about, spiritual empowerment to take social and moral action. So there are tons of examples globally, and there are tons of examples happening now in Dublin that actually the Alliance, we're on this call, we're actually taking action around spiritual empowerment of individuals to improve the community. So this is actually foundational into what the study circle will focus on. But from a day-to-day aspect, from a week-to-week, and from an actual plan, this group would meet at least twice a week for a few hours or some regular time, go over the materials, study, reflect, and then take action. And I can't emphasize it enough. The emphasis is really on action and taking action into practice level impact to the community, so that there's measurable progress toward oneness and toward the goal. And stories will come out of that systematic way of executing. So the tutors, I'm a tutor. I tutor some of these sessions and facilitate action, learning into action. And I've been doing it for 20 years now. And we have a large number of tutors available. And so we're proceeding to plan a study circle session to initiate within the next few months and start to build this system in a more organized and systematic way. Okay. So that's the introduction of the study circle and the Institute process and the tutors. Can I answer any questions before we go into the action framework? I want to share the Institute in action next. Any questions?
Hi, David.
Hey, Mike. Hey, good
Great
to see you.
you.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I'm
I'm
a little
sure.
late.
David.
I'm sure you're a little winded.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're a
Catching
little
up
winded.
on some sleep. But I was able to review some of this from the email that you sent, Mike. So great job keeping us
Thank
all
you.
on track.
All right. Thank you. Wonderful.
So this is the system that I'm talking about. I tried to put a slide together to really articulate what this institute process is. And as you can see, since the 90s, the Baha'is and partners within the Baha'i community globally, because it's definitely actually most of the people participating inside of this this system are not actual members of the Baha'i faith. It's basically humankind executing inside of the system. So you have a local area moving left to right where these innovations, and I can't emphasize enough the last session that the candidates were talking about oneness, the amount of innovations that people were talking about in ideas and how to express oneness in their experience and in their life was profound. And I think those are the things that we're really trying to tease out and make happen towards social action and implementation. And so that local level power and the grassroots is where this is really trying to tap and get learning and experience, because all situations in cities are different. Not everything is cookie cutter. Every neighborhood and every city has a unique sort of social dynamic and what's happening in the city. And this, city officials and leaders try to address those things to some extent, but there's obviously a community sort of initiative that happens where the community has to come together. So that local set of learning is right for taking action and coming to unity and coming to the oneness and really expressing that in ways that we can learn and celebrate. And I go left to right here because at the right hand side, all the way to the right, you can see the international impact of what is happening on a global level inside of countries. I only listed a few countries, but you can see the stories of what is happening through this process that started at the local level that now have matured inside of countries. And so it has impacted countries at the community, regional level, national level, and now they're starting to take transformational steps globally and start to implement different constructs of oneness inside of these communities. And that I just listed out some of that. And going back from the international to the national, at least in the United States, one significant contribution that this process has contributed to are some initiatives around racial unity that have been going on in the United States, and the Baha'i community has brought that to the American population in terms of 100 years of experience and learning about since the early history of the Baha'i faith in the United States, some racial unity things that were radical and actually, Mike pointed out yesterday, illegal in some states, that Baha'is were taking risk, marrying interracially and having people in the same room, whites and blacks together, and on the same governing, same meeting rooms and organizations that were violating certain laws, and they were taking risk with their lives in terms of trying to take a stand on racial unity. So you have that as a backdrop, and moving forward now at the national level, the experience now is being asked about in various organizational level constructs. There's actually an E Pluribus Unum conference going on this weekend that has global thought leaders, and if anyone's interested, we can send the information out. But there's a global and a national level thought participation that the Baha'is are sponsoring around coming together in oneness at a national level that the Baha'i community has sponsored. Then I bring it to the regional level. So the unified school districts that you see here have all reached out and engaged this institute process for programs of youth empowerment, junior youth empowerment, and other activities. And so one of the key areas about empowering youth is a focal point, as well as children. But I put the youth one here because of the aspect of what's happening in Dublin around the DIP project. And so the junior youth focal area, there's a big global push to educate and engage junior youth, because at that age, critical thinking and critical maturity around identity is key. And so there's been a significant push toward grounding junior youth in some level of oneness and what that really means on a global level, and who they are as individuals. So this is the framework of what the Institute is as a system, and this is where Dublin would fit inside of this global framework. And the richness and the background of resources available as a result of that are endless in terms of what the possibilities could be in terms of transformation and having Dublin move toward oneness. Okay. So implementation, action. So the goals that I covered on the few slide over on the left, these are the goals that we articulated, and now we look at the Institute modules. And the Institute modules are actual modules that are being held globally within that framework. And these are modules that are specifically focused on having social action and service to the community. So that the modules have a reflection and sort of a discussion around spiritual concepts, but then specifically things are planned and executed in the community around that. So as a result of that, systematic storytelling has happened, and I wanted to play some of those stories just to bring some of these concepts to life. So here's the first one.
I have a person that I know that always asks, how is the world going to change? And I always tell this person, my friend, it's going to change one heart at a time. Because God created us noble, and He created us with a purpose to know Him and to worship Him. True worship, according to the Baha'i beliefs, is service. These classes, they're all connected. The children's classes give the children the spiritual foundation to understand that we're all a part of this world, and that our purpose is to contribute to make the world a better place.
Who feels like, can somebody just lift their hand up if they feel like they can make a difference in the world?
And then the junior youth group helps the children to see the power of meaningful service. Not just service where you're kind of trying to check off a list and see how many hours you can get in, but truly assessing the needs of our community and the world around us and trying to see how we fit into that.
One man can change the world. Exactly.
And then we have these devotional gatherings that change the devotional character of the people that come, because we all have a heart that can be touched by beautiful words, And I think that when our hearts are transformed by these beautiful words, it empowers us and it makes us want to go out and do even more. And then we have these study circles where we have a chance to actually really study and think about who we are and why it's important to do these things. You can.
A lot of things are fleeting. Then also it talks about some of the connections that you make are going to carry on. And so like this really said,
we call her Miss Anita. Meeting her, we became friends. She invited my son to the children's class. So I initially started dropping him off. And she asked me to stay for a study circle. And I did. And I found it really interesting. My background being a Christian, sometimes people are pretty fearful to try different avenues. But I learned that it was basically what I believed in. I enjoyed the study circle. We went from one book to the next. And the next thing I know, I found myself teaching the children's class, which I really enjoy because I enjoy sharing the knowledge. My oldest son, Isaiah, to this day, he still is involved with it, where he actually teaches the youth class for Miss Anita. Surprisingly, my young son has Down syndrome, special needs. It's just surprising to see how much he's learned, how much he's picked up on.
Isaiah, you can come in.
It has taught my youngest son to tell me when I'm yelling at my oldest son, "Enough, Mom. Stop yelling at my brother. Enough." And I'll say, "Ishmael, you're right. I need to. You're right. You're right. Less yelling, more love." To be honest, I can sum it up in one word. Since I've been involved, I have more peace in my life. I do. I have more peace in my life. As a whole, it makes us all feel as though our family has been expanded.
So that's one story, and you can see the community coming together and how all the participants, the youth, the children, and the older folks get to participate and weave the story of oneness operating and taking action, learning and gaining experience as such. So there's some others I'd like to show as well that give different aspects of it. There's global pieces. As I go through this, think of any questions you may have that focus in on some of the content before we talk about implementing some of these modules. All right.
I have a person that I know that always asks, how is the world going to change? And I always tell this person, my friend, it's going to change one heart at a time.
Let me reshare. That went a little haywire. Hold on a second. Here we go.
They're all connected. The children's classes give the children the spiritual foundation to understand that we're all a part of this world and that our purpose is to contribute to make the world a better place.
Who feels like
Jackson is small, but
And then the junior youth
we
group
have a very high
helps the
crime
children
rate.
to see
And
the
I look
power
at some
of
of these
meaningful
girls and some of these
service. Not
boys,
just
and I worry
service where you're
that
kind
one
of
day
trying
when
to
they
check
get
off a
older,
list and
something
see
bad
how
is
many
going to
hours
happen
you
to
can get
them.
in,
So
but truly
I just
assessing the
like
needs
hope
of our
that this is
community and the
teaching
world
them
around
that
us
you don't
and
have
trying
to
to
be
see
involved in
how we
anything
fit
that's
into that.
wrong or bad or that's hurtful towards you. You can be in something good. You can stand for
And
something
then we
good.
have these devotional gatherings
Jamia
that
is an
change
animator
the
for
devotional
Junior Youth
character
Spiritual Empowerment Group
of the
each
people
week.
that come, because we
There are a
all
handful of other
have
older youth
a heart
animators
that can be
teaching
touched
alongside
by.
Jamia, including her friend Latoria.
I love being an animator because I like to help the kids grow in the right way and teach them the good virtues.
We don't always make the right choices, so we always need someone to talk to, and that is what the junior youth program is about, is talking to somebody to make the right choices, to be on a spiritual path, to never look at life as what you see it, but as what it could be.
They meet every Saturday in an empty apartment in their complex to pray together, study, discuss, and conceive service projects to perform as a group. The group has been meeting for 14 months, and its impact has been felt by the participants and the apartment community.
The attitudes have changed. You can tell that the kids really enjoy this program. And I've had several children when I first started here 3.5 years ago that were acting out. They were swinging from my gutters. They're not doing that anymore.
I see little changes in each of these kids that I teach or Toya teaches. They all have learned something, you know. They used to fight, like, you know, fight, you know, argue all the time. But they have all learned that it's okay to not fight anymore. It's okay to not argue. It's okay to be nice and not tell cruel jokes to each other, you know.
And I just thought it was a good program for the kids out here because a lot of them, they were out here fighting and you would hear them cursing at each other and things like that. But it seemed like it's helping them because it seemed like they're more respectful and they're actually, you see them actually outside playing with each other.
It helps some of the kids so like they get bullied at school or something that they feel like they matter.
The group thing is making an impact on the children because the words that we talk about, they review them and then they see the older kids like us, like we're their role models, so they do anything that we do, they try to, you know, act as us.
You know, the kids are so proud of themselves for what they've done, and the parents are so proud of what the kids are doing that it has just made it such a positive place.
The program was initiated at Jamia's apartment complex by a few local Baha'is in Jackson, including Penny Roberts and her daughter Zia. Worried about the town's high crime rate, the local Baha'is in Jackson knew that the junior youth program would help local youth take ownership of their community and channel their energies towards service. The Baha'is located an apartment complex with plenty of youth and junior youth to focus on as a way of maximizing the impact of their fledgling effort. But as they didn't know anyone in the complex, they needed to start by making friends.
Then our Baha'is here just spent another year forming these veritable friendships with the folks who lived here. They spent so much time going door to door just to say hi. What's going on? How are your kids? What's going on in school? That kind of a thing.
Whatever I could do for them, help them out a little bit, just all the time staying in touch base with them, maybe coming by and visiting once a month. And so we were building the friendship and their trust in us at that time.
I didn't know Miss Penny at first, but now she's like a grandma to me. I can talk to her about stuff I can't talk to my mama about.
Yeah.
And Miss Penny, she's the type of person that she understands what you're going through. And she'll show you what to do for right and wrong. And like if you trying to give up, she won't let you.
We give them someone to talk to. In a world that it's really difficult to find someone who will listen. And so that's building the bonds of friendship. So I go in and talk to Robin, who is the main manager here. And I was explaining to Robin about the junior youth program, and Robin says, Penny, you don't have to sell me on anything. Tell me what you need and let's get it started. And so she opened up a vacant apartment to us, and we've been going ever since.
Initially, the struggle was finding the junior youth. I think the first week maybe 2 came, the third week 3 came, but then the struggle was a whole ton started coming.
Our biggest challenge was when we hit that 27 mark that one day, about our 4th or 5th meeting with the junior youth. And it was a state of panic because we've got 27 kids in here and we've not done this before. And we felt like we didn't get anything accomplished because we had not experienced the magnitude of that many coming.
They eventually decided to reach out to some of the older youth in the complex and invite them to become animators for the junior youth program.
I wanted to become a junior animator because I've always had a passion for like kids. I love kids, even though they might drive me crazy. And I want to be a children's psychologist, so I thought this would be a great way for me to learn better how to handle the kids that I would hopefully be treating.
Who wants to take the next question?
Easy. What does the Makimbas do in San Diego?
They go through what? They do.
Teach a lesson.
They go through classes and training sessions and classes. I was always quiet and I didn't want to talk, but when I first got into this program, the first exact day, they made us all go around and start saying our names and what things that were great about us or what was amazing about us, and I had to get out there and say my name was Shamia and I love to bake, and all of them started asking, oh, you bake? What do you bake? So it made me feel like that I shouldn't be afraid to speak anymore. I should get my point across if I have to.
The junior youth then decided that one service that they can provide is to teach weekly spiritual classes to the children in the community.
Human souls with justice, so that they may be fair and may strive to provide for the comfort of all.
Feels good to know that you're making a change in one of these kids' lives every day.
We're doing things to go down the right path because then if they see us doing things going down the right path, that's what's going to make them follow us and do the right things. Because if we do bad things, then they're going to want to follow after us and do the bad. And we need to do the good.
This program is impacting the world. It is going to help in some way.
So I think there's one last one, and then I can open it up to the for questions. Let me see if this is the one on the show.
Talking to people, I don't really connect with people because they may have a different way of thinking than I do. I just think that I can grow more with just like connecting better with people. I'm Drake. I'm currently 21 years old. I got interested about how they see all religions as one and how we can implement really any culture into our daily life through Darius, who I met on the plane.
I was going to Atlanta for a conference, so I was trying to think about what would be useful to share with other people, and so I realized that I had other people on the plane with me, and the closest one was Drake. And so I really reached out for help.
Well, he started talking to me about how we can better our communities within Chicago.
Naturally, the conversation led to questions about what's happening in Chicago. We both live in Chicago. and what are the challenges that we're facing, and how could we maybe make things better? What would make things better?
It's not really common for me to click with somebody that quickly in that short of time period. So, I was curious.
He reached out to me a couple of days later and said, "How did it go?" It was just like this sincere, new friend who knew about something that was on my heart.
I could just relate to what he was saying and the things that he talked about. I thought the same thing about how we could implement everything into our lives and, lead with love and just the basic principles that he expressed. I felt the same way. The first time we met, actually, we were talking about Gandhi. I'm always curious about things like that.
From kind of these conversations that we had kind of in the abstract about approaches to education, the role of knowledge in the advancement of civilization, we had all those conversations, but then we drilled down, we were able to say, if you thought that those conversations were interesting and you're interested in working in your neighborhood, I have some people I could put you in touch with.
One of those times we talked with Anna and Adib. Since they were, close by, he figured I could get in touch with them whenever because we live in practically the same neighborhood. What impresses me about Anna and Adib is that they are so genuine, and whatever they can do to help the kids in the community, they're willing to do. Anything I can do to help out with my community, I'm willing to do.
We also learn to walk with others on the spiritual path in a humble posture of learning, engaging in individual and collective service for the betterment of the world.
I think it's great that they're outsiders of the community because it brings a different aspect to the community in terms of, what you can practice in your daily life and, things that you can do. It brings a different perspective.
So the point of the game is for us to count from 1 to 5 as a group.
1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4.
How have the kids been responding in children's class?
I think the engagement is pretty good. I think that it's not really a school setting to where they just have to listen and they're sat down. It's more of a, we're all in this together type of thing. And
Why are you doing it? Why are you giving all this time to it? You got a lot going on.
Yeah. Whatever I can do to help my community, I look forward to it. So at school before, I was more like, okay, I'm here to be in school and get my degree. It was more me being focused and very narrow was my way of thinking. It wasn't really me trying to be more personal with other people. I just think that I can grow more with just connecting better with people.
Do you see this children's class as a means of actually starting to address some of the issues happening in society?
Yes, I can see that. Just them having a setting where they bond together and they grow together. I think it could be a stepping stone with bettering society.
Yeah.
The evils of racism, materialism, and moral decadence will be eradicated only by a love that is translated into action. Such actions as deliberately going out of our way to befriend all, appreciating the indispensable contributions of all, and joining hands with all in the creation of a new world.
Why did you trust those people to the point that you actually talk to them about what you care about? That's what I'm always really interested in. It's
well, I trusted them because they seemed like good and genuine people. Yeah, but also, any conversation where I can better myself or better the community.
Yeah.
I'm always willing sit down and discuss that.
Yeah. I think Drake's just more confident in this process. He just sees how it's connected to making the world a better place. So I think is, in terms of like motivation, if you think about what motivates people to do things, understanding why it's important is at the heart of it. If you understand why something's important, you'll do it, you'll never stop. And I see that increasingly in Drake. And I mean, the interesting thing is, and he was never tentative. And that's that quality itself. If that quality, if people had more of that confidence in each other, we would see ourselves advance as a society so quickly.
I just think that like me meeting these Baha'i people, I can bring more positive attributes to other people.
One thing that I really learned from Drake is this idea of the importance of being able to find collaborators that you trust and that you're willing to listen to and to share of yourself authentically.
So there are, as you can see, there are a lot of links in here that tell the story. I wanted to show those mainly because it's focused on the young people, and that's one of the key areas of focus in the strategy is to focus on the young folks. And also that last story is unique because that's my old neighborhood in Chicago where I grew up, and it brings back memories of and currently what's happening in Chicago now that my family's telling me. So just wanted to share that. So anyway, this is kind of the framework. You got a little flavor of the implementation approach, the social action practice. You can see it's all about action and service, learning, and then learning and applying spiritual teachings is really the core of it. And so that is the offer and the proposal. Now, before I open up to questions, I did want to introduce the first module, and that's called Life of the Spirit. And Life of the Spirit is really the introductory type of module that gets into starting the conversation in terms of doing service and how you engage with the community and discuss service projects as individuals, what actions you can take. And it's all geared toward empowering the culture of oneness that we're trying to get to in Dublin. It's linking each individual, coming up with the story and linking it into the connected community that we have and building those stories further so that people start noticing that through this impact that the community is being affected. And you can see the impact. It starts with one individual, and then one individual influences another, and pretty soon you have a movement of impact, and it's more systematic because it leads to reporting out and collective action that the city could then reflect on. So here's I'm opening. We're going to probably start something in the first part of the year, and I would say that a further information session I'm going to probably have November 19th before Thanksgiving, and we'll send out another communication and try and see who would want to join us in that session. So that's where this will kick off, but it's up to the Alliance on how they want to approach doing this. This is just the framework. So with that, I open it up for questions, comments, dialogue. Back to you, Regis or Mike.
Very informative and greatly appreciated, Jason, for you doing the presentation, and it's very appreciative. Anyone have any questions, comments?
Thanks, Jay.
or feedback? What did you think of everything, the presentation?
Not all at once.
Okay, so this is Lee. Yeah, I think it was really a wonderful presentation, and because I could see where it connects the framework of what you're doing in that city in Dublin, the local action, really with an action that's being expanded and carried out around the world, which really makes it so positive, and that because it's really working toward that oneness of humanity. So, and you've captured it, I think, in a very beautiful way, the different, the one slide that shows like the circles, or it was like the universe and the planets, but it had reaching out from local to the regional. This one, yes, in particular, yes, to the regional and to the national. It really shows that where this, your city, of the goals of this particular area really fit in with your global plan. So you've demonstrated it very beautifully in this aspect, and also the stories that you've shared in the videos are very appropriate. So I applaud you, and would love to be able to use and share some of this material with some groups and friends that I'm engaging in the same conversation with, because you've certainly set a great tone of where it should be instead of a lot of rhetoric. But this is really very positive. It's very spiritual, so I really love it. So I applaud you. That's my comments. Keep it up, guys. I love it. You're in my prayers, and if I can help in any way, let me know. Keep up the great work.
Hey, Mike and Jason, say I waited a little bit here because I didn't want to dominate the conversation by jumping right in, but I felt like jumping right in, but I held back. But now, let me just, a couple of thoughts. One, really, really well thought out, a lot of facts and details, and a lot of work went into this presentation. So it's obviously got a life of its own. There's something here, and it's all good stuff. How it relates to Dublin is a couple of things just to point out. We all know that we're putting together a task force. I know, Mike, you've applied. Several other people have applied. We have over 70 applicants, actually. I think trying to meld or mesh or incorporate or infuse this knowledge into that task force in whatever way is appropriate is one thing to try to do. So let's make sure that we get a couple people on that task force. Number one. Number two, it feels like there are, I keep hearing the word community, which is great. I point out that there are maybe microcosms or small neighborhoods that we could not experiment with, but start off with. One of them is the Emerald Vista community, which is a mix of market rate and affordable housing, which has services provided. There's after school care. There's a community center, kind of a community room, if you will, that so you have meeting space, because one of the ingredients, I think, is meeting space, a place to come together. And so what we might do is approach, that's run by Eden Housing. We may approach them to say, hey, can we bring this to that community? Another community is the Valor Crossings. It started off, it's a veterans affordable housing community. And I hate to use the word, I won't use the word project, but it's a community. And but it doesn't just have veterans in it, it's got families. So it's veterans and families. They also have wraparound services and counseling and facilities and places to meet. And so the infrastructure is there at Valor Crossings. There may be others. There may be opportunity to infuse into the schools. Every school has, Dublin High has 60 clubs on campus. maybe this could become a club on campus at Dublin High or at Valley High. And so think about that as an opportunity. One of the headwinds I see is just this darn COVID that we have. So you can't get together. I mentioned the places that we could before COVID and we can after COVID, but right now there's not a lot of people getting together in the community rooms and things like that. So maybe we use technology and Zoom and bring people together that way. But I think this is going to be much better when we get past COVID. But anyway, those are just some thoughts as to how we may be able to make progress together in Dublin. I will say, we're not a big giant city, so but we're small enough to where we can come together and find pockets of success implementing this. The other thing is, I'll just say, I feel pretty confident that the community is pretty ripe for this. We've started off with recognizing that we are not going to tolerate hatred, and that we will, not tolerate it, and that we will stand united against hate. That we will provide inclusivity and equality and diversity. And so we as a community have already started to take the right steps. We've tilled the soil, so to speak, I think. And so we're ripe for furthering the discussion about, race equality and oneness. And, we had a good example of that was in June when we had, the push for social justice. And so I think let's keep going. We can't stop. We can't go backward. And so we got to keep moving forward. And so I'm committed to help that any way I can. I think that the next city council will be willing to keep pushing forward, as we change over in December. So I'm optimistic about that. So let's keep heading in the right direction. As I was listening to Jason speak and the videos, those are the thoughts that came to my mind. So just a couple of thoughts I throw out there to the group.
Thank you. I would say, Mr. Herbert, and that congratulations on becoming supervisor.
Yes.
As well. I want to give you applause on that. So to touch on some of the subjects that you brought up, some key points, and that is about Eden housing. So actually, I'm in the affordable housing business as well. So I'm also with a nonprofit organization as well. So I'm familiar with Eden housing. There is an organization that's it's called the Northern Public Housing Association. They're based out of San Francisco, but they have all the affordable housing organizations that are, strategically out throughout the Bay Area. Like I said, Eden Housing, my organization is also in the East Bay as well. There is two parts that I have. You have the property management part, and then you have what's called resident services. So for myself, I'm in resident services. And so this is something that resident services would do. When you sit at Emerald, it does have the family component as well as the senior component as well. And I actually been inside that clubhouse and, have done like what's called inter-organization meetings with all the different nonprofit organizations. So we do communicate. So and so they are open to different, you can say, opportunities within the community that will benefit them as well. So that'd be great for the families as well as for the seniors as well. So as a little bit of my background, I worked with families before, and now I work with seniors. So, but definitely, I think that's be a great niche. And I think that it's something that if you did picture to Eden Housing, that they would be interested in. And I know that as far as Dublin was kind of looking at strategic planning maybe for more of affordable housing. I know that nonprofit organizations are pretty good, like for example, with Eden Housing, because they know to get through the red tape and everything, and they know the process and all of that. So that would be something that another organization, if they do want to look at a location in Dublin or in the Tri-Valley area, that can also do partnership with. And I do agree with you as far as reaching out to probably like the Unified School District and see maybe what school will probably be interested as far as a pilot program. So I appreciate it. Any more comments, questions? All right.
Just a,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Amelia.
Yeah, just a thought about this idea of like bringing the program into schools and implementing it in a high school or local middle school. One thing that I know a couple communities in the Bay Area have done because of the pandemic and because it's difficult to actually meet in person right now is they've actually done presentations in the high school classroom over Zoom because the classes are online anyway. And then they've been able to form a couple youth groups and things like that totally virtually. So just that's an option too, if that's the route that the group decides to go in.
And I would second that I have seen that in other areas. And as far as like I said, when it comes down to nonprofit organization like Eden Housing, it's the same thing, that they can do it virtually and have a stationary location to do the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I forgot to mention, sorry, Regis, is that was a wonderful presentation. Jason and Regis and Mike, thank you guys. Very informative.
So David has introduced us through his being mayor of Dublin for so many years. So thank you also for that service, and congratulations on your next chapter in your career. So prayers and well wishes to you. And the development we have in Dublin is in part thanks to you, right? So we'll do that in our relationship that we built that's carried us to this point of you sitting here with us. And he introduced us to Maureen Byrne, right? So the principal of Dublin High. And she has come to some of our events and attempted to do her best with her busy schedule to stay in contact with us. So we could, you know, definitely reach back out to her as we continually keep her in line with our messages and see what kind of advancement we can make. You know, and David, if you do talk to her or anybody else that you think you can help us build this module, that would be wonderful.
Start a oneness club. I think we find the students at Dublin High that start a oneness club, and spread the word that way. It's just an idea.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. And we do, and that leads in what you just said, the Oneness Club. So we've talked about several projects that have been in one of the last messages I sent out about, you know, the conversation of oneness. Now, and this is part of it, but, you know, oneness is not sameness, right? So we discussed that and we're learning that. And I love sharing that part. And people are, it's a concept in these themes and words and language that we use that are foreign to some, as I share. So this theme of oneness it's something we're learning, right? This is unfolding. And this is, again, that pivot that we're making when things are slow and again, seem to be moving backwards. All of a sudden there's this jump in history as we look at, and this would be that next jump, the oneness of humanity. And these youth have caught on to that. Their discussion of this dialogue looks completely different on their end. The words they're using, the language they're using, what they feel, what they see through their lens. This conversation of oneness, they're living it. So with respect to them, we can definitely learn from them, and we will progress and advance because the world moves with the youth, as we know that with all of the information that we have. and statistics. So yeah, oneness is not sameness, and they will definitely, along with us, be able to advance this. So that's a wonderful relationship we can build. So anybody that can put us in contact, I think this would be the next step. Yeah.
So Mike, you mentioned the word community conversation, and so it sparked in my mind an idea, and it's going to go back to what I mentioned earlier about the task force that we're creating. And you know, the task force that we're creating, one of the goals was to further the conversation around, you know, racial equality and justice. And it also evolved, and it's going to fold in the notion that we as a community are evolving and becoming more diverse. And, you know, we're no longer that kind of, you know, white suburban St. Patrick's Day Irish kind of America. We are now, you know, Asian and Indian and all different cultures. And so how do we as a community cater to them in the programs that we offer, in the community celebrations that we have, the festivals and things like that? Right. You know, we'll probably always do St. Patrick's Day, but we need to add to it other things. And so what we might also add in addition to cultural and, you know, diverse races, but we may add to it diversity of thought, which is to have this conversation around oneness. And so I keep going back to this group that we're, the task force, is that let's plant the seed that one of the outcomes of the task force would be, let's sponsor a community conversation around oneness. That means that the task force would recommend to the city, the council would have to approve it, but city staff would then work on providing as a resource for the community a conversation around one. They'll market it, they will find the avenues to have it. You know, again, I'm thinking about when we get past COVID, you know, they'll fill the auditorium and have a conversation around this. That's when you're really putting the city's resources to work against that city staff, city budget, things like that. It only happens through bringing it to the city council, having them approve it, and the task force will be making those recommendations. So I really go back to, in the next couple of months, an action step is work with that group, become a member of it, or have a few members of it, or work with the members of it to infuse that, make it a goal that coming out of that group, that a conversation would be something that the council would approve and that the city staff would then work on.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Exciting. Thank you, David. Will do.
Good meeting, guys. Great job. I appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate it. Are there any other questions or last comments or statements?
The floor is open.
No, just wanted to thank everyone for their participation, and Jason, a great job in terms of the presentation, and great comments by Mayor Halbert regarding avenues in which we can merge much of what Jason has presented into the city's culture. And I think that that's a really good first step, because I think if we can get the support of the city and merge it into the way we do business, so to speak, I think it's a great way to initiate some of the positive changes we're hoping to implement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, Phil. Yeah, that's dead on. Perfect. Anybody else?
Well, friends, this is the first time I'm joining this group, and I'm delighted. Mike has been kind enough to copy me, sending me invitations for some period of time, and unfortunately, circumstances didn't make it such that I could attend, and I'm really delighted to be part of this group, listen and learn, and I see great potentials for it. Thank you for all the friends who have dedicated so much of their time and are doing this work. It's one of the most vital issues facing our community, our nation, and the whole world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Right. So my question is, was there in the presentation, I know for Lee, it was the graph. Was there something in specific in the presentation that really stood out and caught your eye or interest?
I think the graph was wonderful, and I'm sure going through the videos will be wonderful also. And these programs fall in line to the graph works, and also when David was speaking about the conversation of oneness, to the left side towards the end, right next to, there was some community sponsored, I think, events. Jason, if we can scroll down maybe. Yeah, there to the right side, there's community events celebrating oneness, and to the left of it, race unity, walking on a path towards race unity and oneness for families and friends. Again, led me to think when David was talking, as I shared about the conversation on oneness, that caught my eye. So I think there's just so much that with all the words that we talk about and the thoughts we have that are fulfilled within this our charter and module as we go through it from time to time. I think we'll find that they are going to fulfill our thoughts and wants and desires, and we'll find ways to fulfill them. Thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, there isn't anything else we can close for tonight.
Sure.
Appreciate everyone coming out, especially with your busy schedules.
Yes.
And with everything going on. Just say, really appreciate it. Be safe, be humble, and our next meeting will be, we will post on our next meeting.
Yeah, we'll post it definitely on our Facebook page, and keep again, appreciation is promoting us and taking the time to attend, as you said, Regis, and yeah, just keep promoting us, sharing us, and we're all allies. We're all part of this alliance. So whether it's part of everybody to their capacity is fulfilling some form of action. The initial thought is the awareness, the consciousness is an action, and just being here listening is an action. And then there's the educational portion, and then the outside as we go out there tomorrow until we meet again. It's all action. So we all have the ability and action to go to work every day.
All right. Okay.
So thank you.
Good meeting, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Be safe, be well. Best to your families.
Likewise.